Say good afternoon, merhaba, assalamu alaikum, bonjour, guten tag, dobry dzień, здравствуйте, because we're really here at the center of the world. And today I'm going to share some insights on how the wealthy grow wealth, protect their wealth, and sometimes they unfortunately lose their wealth as well. But the aim is I'm going to share some secrets, and hopefully some of you will become billionaires, be able to buy a yacht, and come here to Turkey to build it, because we've got the cluster to do it here. So, by way of introduction, who am I? I'm a chartered accountant. I've spent my career working with high net worth individuals, with family offices across Europe. I've worked with European families. I worked for Russia's wealthiest lady, and I also advise family offices in Monaco. From race courses to royal yachts, I've helped realize billionaires' dreams. I've seen how wealth is built, and I've worked my hardest to protect the wealth, and I differentiate in that I try and grow the wealth through the dynasties. You'll come to see in this presentation it's one of the hardest things to do. I'm a godfather, the French call it a beau-père de famille, and a trustee on family office dynasties. I get to dish out the cash to the children, so the kids like to speak to me. I work with Martyn, Fiddler. We're the go-to advisors for business jets. We also have a fleet of yachts, and I work to optimize the taxes for wealthy individuals. So let's dive into the billionaires. We had Wealth Ex and Ultra earlier. I'm not going to steal their glory, but I just want to get across that the wealth pyramid, it's a very narrow pyramid. We've got 3,000 billionaires at the top, and then it spreads right out to over 62 million millionaires at the bottom. Interestingly, here in Turkey, the Altera people said there's an 8% increase in the number of millionaires here in Turkey last year. It's really the place to watch. It's the center of the world for logistics. But an interesting part, so we've got the yacht owners, the people with Beneteaus down at the bottom. Once you become a millionaire, you're down with the smaller sailing boats and the little day boats. But very much, once you get to 50 million above, you're into super yacht territory, and you're into the jet owners as well. But we have to ask ourselves, look, just how many ultra-high net worth individuals there are up there. Just take like the 50 million bracket, 234,000 of them. There's only 6,000 super yachts that we've built. So we're not doing a great job at penetrating this market. And that's what I'm going to come on to. As the world is creating a lot of wealth, but it's less than 1% of billionaires are buying the yachts. So we need to really penetrate the market and up our game. There's 25,000 jets out there, but only about 6,000 super yachts, depending how you measure it, of course. So wealth is growing. To give it some perspective, so back down to my bank account at the bottom here, where the Americas, the average wealth, people are at 300,000. EMEA 167. The great thing about here in Turkey, debt levels are low, and families build dynasties because they're used to dealing with inflation, currency risk, and interest rates are incredibly high here. But that gives them the skills in how to develop in this economic environment. And they've had generations of that, so very good, the Turkish families at dealing with wealth. And that's why it's grown so well in the last few years. Of course, here in Turkey, we've got the geolocation, which people have mentioned. The logistics. If you landed in the airport, it's one of the biggest in Europe. It's the busiest airport in Europe. You've also got a certain neutrality and openness here. And the secret is the young workforce. The average age here in Turkey is 33 years old. The country's enormous. It's 3 times the size of the United Kingdom, twice the size of Japan, and there's 90 million consumers here. It leads in automaking, electronics, textiles, and the government really gets it. I wish where I was, the government got this. It's about infrastructure, and the government are getting behind that. And of course, the secret weapon here, Turkish delight. It's perfect. I call it the Turkish Viagra. It's really good. So let's go on to some secrets. I'm going to share my first secret. Billionaires are really good at building wealth. They're absolutely terrible at keeping the money. 70% of the wealth is lost by the second generation. The children are excellent at spending it, and 90% by the third. So the dynasties that last in the billionaire realm, they're quite rare. So we can study the families. So some of the well-known ones, Hermes family, 6 generations. Beretta, great one to study, 15 generations of wealth. And in Turkey here, we've got some great families to study as well. Forgive my pronunciation, the Koç family and the Sabancı families. They're great examples on how, as the wealth builds, they diversify, they're well-governed, and they have planned succession. We need to study these families because the statistics on retaining wealth are absolutely terrible. The Koç family, they've kept their roots here in Turkey. They reinvest in the family businesses, and they have a core family office. Importantly, they've kept the business. Often family offices, they move to Monaco, they sell off the business. Big mistake. And one of the big things I've noticed, they invest in their children. So billionaires know that's a problem. So money can be a poison for the children. And many billionaires really stress and worry about this. It's that the next generation are disconnected, and there's a failure of family offices to grow the wealth. And I'm going to come on to that the Superyacht is a key catalyst to keeping families together. So one of the problems in the wealth management industry, and I'm one of those people, I trained as a chartered accountant, there's many lawyers in the room. We are not that great investors. We're conservative, we look at all the risks, and so when we invest, we're happy with low returns. But the family offices that I work with, they're looking for returns at over 15%. They look at high returns, they take risks. So, but unfortunately, the family offices, they want trusted individuals, they rely on lawyers and chartered accountants, which aren't so good at retaining wealth. The lady on the left, she went from 0 to 25 million back to 0 in her lifetime. She was called the Bellotterer, and I live in the same building as her. She gambled it away in the casino, and I have to say, unfortunately, a lot of people, they move to Monaco, and they tend to lose their motivation. They have alcohol issues, substance abuse, and of course, gambling. And this is a problem that the children face of wealthy families. So, the illusion of the self-made millionaire. Lots of billionaires claim they were self-made, but actually it's their parents are a key factor of it. So take, for example, Richard Branson claims he's self-made, but actually 2 factors early in his career. One, his father was a barrister, so he was good at law. And also he did what some would refer to as a little VAT fraud. He got caught for it, he paid his penalty, but that gave him the cash flow to start his business. Stelios from EasyJet. His father was brilliant. He got him in the business, into the shipping business, and then his father lent him some money to start the Easy brands. And he built, it's really unusual for the children to go on and build the wealth. So let's look at the billionaires, where to find them. You can look on TikTok and you see the lady looking for a man in finance, blue eyes, 6'5", with a trust fund. Those statistics are the same as being struck by lightning. But the lady was right, you have to look in finance, that's where most of the billionaires are. Increasingly, they're in tech and real estate. But the US is where you should look for the billionaires. And what happens in the US markets really shapes our industry of the yachts and the jets. Often on these panels, people stand up and say we're absolutely insulated from the markets in yachts and jets. It's true, billionaires keep spending through the dips, but they take advantage. They look for distressed assets. They have the cash flow to do that. But if the US stock market catches a cold, then we're in hospital with hypothermia in the yacht industry. In 2007, many of us will have lived through that. I walked away from the yacht show. My boss said we'd signed 4 big boat deals. The ink never dried on those contracts. So when we have 2007 episodes and crises, the yacht industry really catches a cold. So the secret to getting wealthy, remember, if any of you follow this and become wealthy, build your super yacht in Turkey. So the common traits from my analysis is they start really early. They save aggressively and they invest in the business. They invest in appreciating assets, in monopoly assets as well. And they use their, if they do have to have a depreciating asset like a car, they get high utilization out of it. If they buy a small jet, there'll be maximum utilization. They'll put it out for charter. And they have a self-made mindset. So here's my billionaire that ChatGPT created on the left. So if we profile a billionaire, most of them are white, male, and American. They own multiple homes, about 4.7 homes each. They aim for really high returns. If you work in a family office, it's tough. They're benchmarking investment performance the whole time. Many of them, we portray in yachting a luxury view. The marketing historically was pictures of young bankers on the boat, but the reality is it's often grandparents trying to get the grandchildren on the boat. And it's also for business leverage, because if you get your work colleagues on there, if you get your supply chain on there, you really have a captive environment. You get to decide when they leave the boat. So your negotiation position on a yacht is very strong. So my next secret I'm going to share, and this is a really massive trend happening in fastest growth sector, is the rise of the female billionaire. I've worked for 2 of them in my past. So their wealth is growing faster than men's at the moment, and they have more wealth events during their lifetime, often through inheritance and business sales. So 75% of female wealth is inherited, but they live longer than us men. And they typically have 2 life-changing events. One when their father passes, or their grandfather, and 2 when their husband passes. But another trend is under the billionaires under 30, 47% were female last year. So there's going to be a more balanced future, and we have to change our marketing, change the way we run family offices. And having worked for Russia's wealthiest lady, and one of the UK's most wealthiest women, the notable differences in the family office is much less ego. There's more interest in property and arts. And there's a high interest in investing in the education of the next generation. But, lady, I've got a tip. If you are a lady and expecting to inherit wealth, 1/3 of women have never discussed with their parents the wealth transfer. So it comes to a surprise to them when they receive it. They have no plan and no visibility. So this is a call to action. If you are expecting wealth, no matter how much, please speak to your parents, because it's often a big surprise. And family offices, lots of them do plan for the succession, but lots of them are caught off foot. The other thing studying billionaires is, yes, often the golden retrievers. Dickie Banningbird was talking about the dogs on board, but they're often married, and so the power of love is very strong for billionaires. Divorce is one of the biggest wealth killers. Not only the financial division, but it's the pain and the distraction from the business. So I've seen wealthy families, and unfortunately the couple have split, and it's not the financial problem, it's the pain, the distress, and taking 4 years of your eyes off the business, which is a real problem. The wealth, Altera will talk about the big wealth transfer, so that's going to happen, and we need to be prepared for that. And one of the things that family offices are doing is they're investing in the future. So Russia's richest lady, her daughter spoke 4 languages. She could fly a plane, a helicopter, ride a Harley Davidson, and had her captain's boat license, all before the age of 18. That's how much they invest. So here's the average stats of a yacht owner. To note, the yacht, 60% of private equity deals are done on yachts. So they're really a business tool, yeah. The business jet, it's a time tool. It's saving time, and the yacht's a quality time. But will I make money from chartering either? No, you get a cost contribution. So let me go on. Sorry, did I do the aircraft? Have I gone past that? Yeah, so the blueprint of the family offices. They're creating an architecture of a structure, thinking in generational time periods rather than next quarter, which businesses often look at. They're not looking at quarters, but they're structuring it in company structures. Here we go. Sorry, I've gone too far with the slides. I'm IT, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, one of the other elements, and a good way to prospect for clients is enter the other passion investments. So family offices, they do invest in other asset classes, and they can be a good way in for prospecting, but they're not very high performing. The spreads on these assets are really high, and the problem is that it's a very small market for these goods. It's not liquid like stocks and shares. So they're often investing in them for tax reasons, but also for the networking possibilities that these assets buy. If you buy that Ferrari, they join a club of other like-minded individuals. And it's similar with all the other elements. The land, the forestry, the vineyards, of course, inheritance tax efficient. So I'll move on. These are the things that you mustn't do to preserve your wealth. So I call them the 8 Ds. Avoid depreciation, get high utilization out of your assets. Avoid divorce, it's financial suicide. Avoid death. In my family offices, there's a lot of effort and money spent on wellness, on going to the gym, keeping fit. That's why you see gyms on board the yachts and things like that. Avoid dumb ventures. When you're wealthy, the vultures surround you and give you business plans, and 99% of them should go in the bin. You need to cultivate your heirs, so don't die out, have children. Death duties, the governments are attacking wealthy people. And dispute. Brotherly dispute is one of the biggest causes of wealth protection. So avoiding the Ds, educate yourself. Rich people, one of my family officers, he actually has a lot of TVs. He has 27 TVs on his super yacht, and he's watching the financial markets constantly. So 47% of family offices now review their succession plans annually. So here's some ways to diversify. You may know the two people here. Physical security is becoming an issue for billionaire family offices. So you've got President Putin's bodyguard and Xi's bodyguard here. 50% of family offices are now investing heavily in cybersecurity and personal protection. The corporate structure, I'll get this slide to be shared, but you're buying anonymity, you're buying security, you're buying the ability to transfer assets quickly. One of the trends I'm seeing is less company structures and partnerships and more a thing called securitization. You won't own the yacht direct through a company, but you'll own a bond in a structure that then owns the yacht. And that helps you transfer your wealth much faster. So you can literally transfer it over a cup of coffee by transferring a bond certificate to someone else. So billionaire threats. We've had wars this century. We've lost billionaires in wars, things like the Titanic. We've lost billionaires over. Inflation is one of the biggest risks. Government deficits are out of control, especially in Europe. UK and France are running deficits. Terrible Western demographics. The fertility rate is shocking. And that will flow through to tax take and consumer products in the future. And stock market valuations. The American market's hugely overvalued. If we have a correction, then yachting will catch a sneeze. So yachting industry issues, I mentioned it. Not many people like to talk about this, but the percentage of billionaires who are yacht owners is decreasing rapidly. Over the generations, we're losing a contact with the sea. My grandfathers were fishermen, so they owned yachts. Other ones were yacht builders. But over the generations, we're losing that link. The time to buy a yacht, the brokers in the room will know this, but from your first on-the-water experience to closing the deal and signing the contract, some American research said it's 10 years. It's just too long. The car industry gets that right down, but the yacht industry, we're taking 10 years from getting people on board yachts to closing the deal. The US dollar is weakening. We mentioned that with the refits and things. And then tariffs, sanctions, they're threatening it. So we have issues in the yacht industry. Final thought. So family offices, they plan for multi-generations. One of my best things I say to all my children is go and read David Copperfield, the annual income, £20 annual expenditures, 19 and 6. The result is happiness. Spend less than you earn, and then if you spend more than you earn, you get misery. But we're all time lords, so we're all given a certain amount. Wealth is one way of measuring wealth, but also we all have time, and it's what we can do with our lives. So every day is a bank account, and we need to make the most of it. And then my ancestors there, Sir Peter Pett, this is in 1834. he built the royal yacht for King Charles I, 92 gun, one of the first royal yachts for the UK. But it cost 1/4 of the UK tax take at the time. And because they spent so much on the yacht, there was a civil war and the king lost his head in that war. So one of my top tips is buy a yacht that you can afford. So, and then this other famous quote, the Aristotle Onassis, the famous owner of Christina O, up there, 95% of good ship management is careful accounting. And it's so true, knowing how much your family's spending, how much is earning. So, and then finally, if you are looking for a man in finance, 6'5", trust fund, blue eyes, it's the same odds as being struck by lightning, but if you take out the trust fund, the blue eyes and the 6'5", there's a lot more of them. So that's my tips for how to be rich, grow your wealth, and retain it. Invest in your children, get them in the business. So thank you very much. I'm going to try it in Turkish. Is it teşekkür ederim? I'm going to try that. Thank you very much. Any questions? Or I'm way over time, sorry. It's cocktail time.
Yeah, it really is.
Sorry.
I'm sure Ian won't mind sharing some of those slides with you if you've
yes,
got some
I'll share the slides. Sorry, there was
amazing.
so much to say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fantastic.